My wife sneaked into our son-in-law's room every night. I set up a hidden camera. Every night my wife went into our son-in-law's room. One day I set up a camera and saw things I never could have imagined. It started as a whisper through the wall's bare feet on the hardwood, a door hinge sighing after midnight. I told myself it was nothing, until I checked the hallway camera. Every night, 2:11 a.m., my wife slipped into our son-in-law's room and didn't come out for hours. I thought I was losing my mind, so I set up a hidden camera. What I saw made me wish I hadn't. At breakfast, my hands shook around the mug. "How long, Paula?" I asked. She froze. Our daughter, Lily, looked up, confused. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "Your husband," I said quietly. "Your mother's been visiting him every night. I have it on tape." The spoon slipped from Lily's hand. "That's a lie!" Paula's voice cracked, half whisper, half warning. "Richard, don't." Oh, but the truth was already crawling out of the screen, and it would burn everything that followed. I guess 99% of you will hear this, sigh, and scroll past, not clicking like or subscribe. Even if it only takes a second. What time is it for you? And where are you listening? They don't tell you this about retirement. Peace has a sound, not silence. Silence is empty. Peace hums. It's the low, even breath of the HVAC at 2 in the morning, the faint tick of the brass clock above the mantel, the ocean's long exhale a few streets over. For 5 years I've lived inside that hum like a man living inside an old hymn. After 40 years on the job, I built this house to run like an engine bay. Floors buffed, tools labeled, bills filed in alphabetical order, everything ready when it's needed and invisible when it's not. Paula moved in 2 years after Emily died. She softened my corners with eucalyptus candles and soft throws, stacked cookbooks with careful spines, said the word cozy like it could fix anything. I let her. It felt good to see a blanket laid not for comfort in a hospital chair, but for an afternoon nap, to smell something other than antiseptic. We talked about second chances in small ways, new mugs, a new rug, plants that didn't need much from me. I'm steady by nature, not suspicious, but I know the sound of this house. The first night, at 2:11 a.m., I heard a light cadence past the hall mirror, and a hinged sigh somewhere down the corridor. I don't jump at shadows. 40 years of running toward trouble trained me out of that. Still, I opened my eyes and watched the door frame a rectangle drawn on darkness and counted 10 slow breaths. The hum returned. In the morning, I chalked it up to the ice maker. The second night, 2:11 again, same soft steps, same hinge. Our son-in-law Brian has been using the guest suite while their condo's plumbing is torn out. He works late nearby, says it saves him a drive to the city. He thanks me each morning like he practices charm the way some men practice pudding. Repeat until it lands. Paula says he's trying. She touches my arm the way people do when they want their words to land softer. "Richard, you worry too much," she says, stroking with that practiced smile. "It's your house, but it's our home. Try to sleep." I don't argue. I log the time in the Notes app next to grocery lists and warranty numbers. Patterns matter. That's not paranoia. It's craft. Before bed, I make my inspection rounds, window latches, stove knobs, the deadbolt. Paula teases me. "Captain's checklist?" I call it bedtime and let the joke float by. I polished the entry marble yesterday until I could see the frame of Emily's photo reflected a young woman in a denim jacket, chin lifted, the kind of hope we lived on. I set a crystal wine glass on a coaster and left it untouched, just to test the steadiness of things. The clock chimed 10 and then midnight. By 2, I was awake again, listening to the house breathe. The steps came, light, like someone trying not to wake a child. Past the mirror, the hinged soft prayer, then quiet. Morning brought a crescent smear on the marble, faint as a sigh, like a heel dragged and then changed its mind. I crouched and ran a fingertip through it, a trace of lotion and road dust. Not mud, no rain last night. Not Brian, his shoes leave square, confident cuts. I took out the microfiber cloth and erased it, the way I've erased scuffs and scorch from too many floors to count. I made the mark disappear. I couldn't make the tick of unease go with it. On the third night, the steps paused right outside our door, close enough that the hall's motion nightlight woke and threw a ghost of pale under the threshold. I held my breath and watched that thin band like it could confess. It wavered, waited, then moved away down the hall, toward the guest room. The hinge answered with its whisper. The hum returned, but it wasn't the same hum. Once you hear a hairline crack, it's all you can hear. I told myself it was the ice maker again. Told myself Paula's lotions, her routines, her making the house cozy, had changed the way the place sounded. Told myself Emily would want me to be generous. Then I stopped. Generous isn't blind. The fourth morning I went to turn off the hall light and saw it. A faint fingerprint on the brass knob of the guest room, too small for Brian, too smooth for mine. I wiped it clean and stood there a moment, the cloth still in my hand, the house breathing around me. Peace has a sound. So does warning. I can hear both. The phone will ring later, Brian, with his syrup and small favors wrapped in Emily's name, turning a hairline crack into a line of stress. But for now, the file sits open in my mind. 2:11 a.m., 3 nights in a row. Document, clean, file, and wait for what the house will tell me next. Morning enters the kitchen in clean gold bars through the blinds. Paula sits at the peninsula in her robe, hair brushed, laughing at a video that loops until meaning wears out. I butter my toast and line up the crumbs with the knife, the way I used to line up tools on the truck, small rituals that keep the world orderly. My phone buzzes on the counter. Before I can reach it, Paula leans and taps it silent. Spam, she says lightly, setting it back where it was. The number never fully shows. I nod and sip coffee that tastes the way habit tastes. It goes down smooth, sits heavy. By noon, the house is quiet enough to hear the mail slot kiss shut. I sort envelopes, utilities, insurance, a flyer for gutter cleaning when the screen flashes Brian's name. He opens with, "Hey Dad," the word he chooses when he needs a door. Airport scrapes and announcements blur behind him. I'm boarding at Newark, Dallas for 3 or 4 nights. Need a favor. I keep my voice level. What kind of favor? He softens his tone, lets it settle. Could you keep an eye on Paula? You know how fragile she is. She's been restless. You were Emily's rock, Dad. Could you do that for Paula? She gets restless at night. The word lands deliberate. Restless, not sleepless. Movement implied. Explanation deferred. And Emily, there it is dropped like a blessing, so the ask feels like faith instead of strategy. She's fine, I say. We're fine. The truth is, I don't know what we are. He exhales like relief. You're the best. I just feel better knowing she's got someone steady. Then lighter, I'll bring you something from Dallas. The line clicks off before I answer. I stand with the phone warm in my hand and watch the curtains thin sway. Fragile, restless. Emily. Each word floats a ghost through the room. Last Christmas surfaces without permission. Brian at this counter, voice trembling in all the right places. I'm drowning, Dad. Cards, late fees. Please, just until the promotion hits. Lily doesn't need to worry. He even said sir once. I wired $18,500 before the bourbon lost its chill. Told myself it was love, told myself Emily would have nodded. 2 weeks later, the photos appeared matching jackets, champagne, bright snow. I double-checked my bank app and closed the screen. After dinner, Paula suggests a nightcap. Helps you sleep, she says, already reaching for the bourbon. She pours mine light and hers heavy, though hers always ends untouched, the ice melting into a quiet admission. She stands in the amber kitchen and studies me like a wrinkle to be smoothed. You're tense, Richard. You worry too much. Maybe relax a little. I'll lock up. She kisses my cheek peach and vanilla and leaves her glass on the marble, a ring blooming beneath it. I wipe it with my thumb and feel the stone of doubt grind under the pad. The house slides into night sounds, the mantel clock keeping time, the ocean behind the neighborhood breathing its long breath, the HVAC whispering even. I drift, then wake to the soft flick of the hall motion light at exactly 2:11 a.m. A shadow widens under the bedroom door. The handle flexes a whisper left, testing, then settles back. Footsteps recede toward the guest room where Brian sleeps. The light fades. The hum returns, altered by what I heard inside it. He said restless, not insomnia. Who plants a word like that? And why does Emily's name still lower my guard when facts don't? I reach for my phone. I spent the morning at Home Depot with a different list. For years I bought nails, brackets, and paint the quiet things that keep a house upright. Today I stood under aisle lights comparing motion cameras. A clerk young enough to call me sir twice pointed out two compact units with cloud storage. I chose the simpler pair, one for the hall, one for the kitchen. I like systems that record, not speculate. Back at the house, I called Nora Denton, my lawyer and old friend. She talks like the prosecutor she used to be, brisk, exact. "Richard, you can't record in a bedroom," she said. "But a hallway you've posted?" "Yes. Keep audio off unless one-party consent applies. Document everything. Don't become the bad actor." I told her I'd rather lose sleep than integrity. "Good," she said. "Date it. Paper wins." I printed the statute summary and slid it into my filing cabinet under a new tab labeled Home Security. That cabinet maps my life. Deed, will, pension statements, and Emily's first grocery list as a bride, laminated against time. I touched the plastic and said, out loud, "I'm protecting what we built." The refrigerator clicked, and the room settled. Permission enough. By late afternoon, I mounted both cameras and screwed a white sign beside the entry bell, "Premises monitored for security." I photographed the sign and sent a group text to Paula, Brian, and Lily, installing cameras in common areas while the condo plumbing is repaired, notice attached. Lily replied with a heart. Brian stayed silent. Paula came in at dusk, scented with eucalyptus. She flicked the sign's corner with a manicured nail and smiled like we were playing a harmless game. "Feels a little paranoid, honey. We're family." The sweetness in her tone could have frosted glass. "Hall and kitchen only," I said. "Posted and legal." She shrugged. "Whatever helps you sleep." After dinner, she shook 2 tablets into her palm. "Melatonin," she said, leaving the bottle cap askew on the counter, label facing forward like a product shot. She kissed my cheek peaches and vanilla and drifted down the hall in her robe, slippers whispering across the marble. Night fell like fog quiet, sure of itself. I sat in my leather chair with the house dark and my phone screen low, watching the feed cycle through empty frames. 1 o'clock, 1:30. The HVAC breathed steady. My chest did not. The faint smell of lemon oil lingered. At 2:12 a.m., the hall cam pinged. The screen washed gray, and there she was, a figure slipping from our master, robe wrapped close, head bowed Paula, moving toward the guest room. 30 seconds later, the kitchen alert buzzed. I thumbed the feed. The refrigerator door opened, light spilling across tile. A hand reached into the butter drawer and lifted something small and wrapped, then closed the door with practiced care. The frames went still. The house resumed its polished hush. My pulse did not. I opened my notes and entered the timestamps, then set the phone face down and listened to the hum I used to call peace. After 40 years of doing things by the book, I won't start cutting corners now, especially not to catch someone else cutting them. Proof is only as strong as what it leads to. I need to know why that door opens, and what travels from my kitchen to his room. In the morning, I'll check every surface the way I once checked a rig after a call. The footprints I catch won't be muddy, just clean. Damp ovals left by someone who stepped on a towel and forgot to dry the marble. By the second night, the cameras start speaking in patterns. 2:09 a.m., kitchen light. 2:10 fridge door. 2:11 Paula's robe moves past the hall mirror. The faint shimmer of silk. 2:12 guest room latch clicks, soft as a sigh. She moves like someone rehearsing a ritual, quiet, almost reverent. In the morning, everything looks normal, but normal has texture once you've watched it lie. The first sign comes small. The butter drawer sits out of order, foil-wrapped squares arranged wrong. I mention it casually over coffee. Paula adds oat milk to my mug, though she knows I drink it black. "Don't be silly," she says, touching my hand. "I probably moved things when I was helping you clean." I rinse the mug and pour again, black this time. The air smells faintly sweet, chemical under the coffee. When she leaves for her morning walk, I open the drawer. One square feels heavier. Inside the foil, 2 small white tablets, scored, no label. I rewrap them and slide them back in. I've handled controlled substances before. We kept them locked at the station. You don't forget the look, or the smell. That night, the feed hums alive again. 2:10 fridge door opens, then closes. Paula, robe drawn tight, lifts the foil, glances around, walks down the hall. The guest room door hushes shut. I log the time, heart thudding like an old pump engine. The footage looks clinical, no sound, no story, Just motion, but it feels like betrayal written in gray light. At 7:15, Brian comes up from the guest wing, hair damp, smile bright. "Morning, sir," he says when Paul is within earshot. "Rich." When she steps out to the porch, he's chipper, phone in hand, showing off his smartwatch. "9 hours sleep," he crows. "Guess your house has magic air." His voice is full of caffeine and charm. The confetti animation on his screen flares gold. He looks rested. She looks hollow. I nod, sip coffee that tastes like nothing, and wonder when politeness became camouflage. After breakfast, I walk the hall like I used to walk, a burned sight eyes scanning, hands behind my back. The marble's polished, but when sunlight hits at an angle, faint arcs appear where a heel pivoted. In the guest bath, a blue hand towel sits damp, neatly folded but not used. The smell is clean soap and something faintly metallic. The kitchen windows open, ocean air sweeping in. The breeze feels good against my skin until I catch the trace of sweetness again, faint and foreign, like the coating of a pill. I follow it to the trash can in the guest room. The liner looks fresh, but old habits don't die. I lift it anyway. Underneath, a torn receipt, folded once, clean rip across the name. I fit the halves together. Zolpidem, 10 milligrams paid in cash. The date is 2 days ago. The name is missing. I stand there holding the slip in gloved fingers, the same way I once held evidence in burned-out kitchens, careful, deliberate, sick to my stomach. My own house has become a scene. If there's nothing to hide, why the choreography? Why the hidden foil? Why the cash? That night, I watch again, not as husband, but as witness. The robe, the light, the latch. The same 4 marks in time, precise enough to set a clock by. There's a fine line between helping someone sleep and putting them under. I need to know who's holding that line and who's crossing it. I started small, a single test, not a trap. From the 2 white tablets in the butter drawer, I left one, marked a hair-thin dot along its edge with a food-safe pen, and photographed it beside that day's paper for the timestamp. Then I slid it back into the foil, the way you reset a fuse after a short. Proof begins quiet. By afternoon, Paula floated through the kitchen in her robe, phone up, voice light as frosting. "My followers love the night routine content," she said, filming herself beside the open refrigerator. "Should I do a melatonin and mindfulness reel from the kitchen?" "It's cute," she winked into the lens. The butter drawer was open behind her, product placement disguised as domestic charm. Comments began to ding. Hearts, fire emojis. A queen of calm. She grinned, catching my reflection in the glass. "Don't look so serious, honey. It's just content." I smiled, because that's what the camera expected. Inside, something shifted, a slow churn that felt like insult wearing perfume. My house had become her set, my order her backdrop. That night, the footage repeated its rhythm. 2:9 light, 2:10 fridge, 2:11 robe, 2:12 latch. The pattern was so precise it could have been an algorithm. I watched from my chair, fingers tight around the phone, each ping another small betrayal. Morning came with the smell of coffee and Paula's laughter. "You were snoring," she said, breezy, pouring oat milk into my cup again. I poured it out, rinsed, filled my own black. When she left for her errands, I opened the drawer. The foil lay crimped open, tablet gone. In the guest bath, the trash can liner looked clean. I lifted it anyway. Half of foil rested beneath. The marker dot I'd drawn stuck to the adhesive strip, faint, smeared, as if transferred by damp fingers. My chest tightened, slow and deliberate. Proof doesn't shout, it accumulates. Flashback. A year ago, Brian called me Dad over the phone, voice wet with panic. "We're in a bidding war for a starter home. Could you front the down payment? Just 25. We'll pay half. Promise." I wired 12, 5 so they'd have skin in the game. He hugged me in person later, head pressed to my shoulder like a boy who still needed guidance. 2 months afterward, he posted photos in designer sunglasses, talking about his brand collaborations and Pilates content. My kindness fed entitlement, and entitlement's an appetite that eats what it's given and then asks for the plate. By late morning, Brian emerged from the guest room, yawning theatrically. "Man, I slept like the dead," he said, flashing that charm. His smartwatch chimed with a streaked notification. 9-hour king, he joked, tapping my shoulder like a teammate. I looked past him to the butter drawer, still open an inch, and forced a thin smile. When the shower started later, I stepped quietly into the guest room. On the nightstand sat a glass, half empty. Inside the rim faint, unmistakable, a smudge of blue marker ink. The same hue as the dot I'd drawn. I felt it like a verdict. After 40 years of saving strangers, I'm watching my own roofline become a stage prop. Why is my kindness always the easiest currency to spend? Evidence gathered ethically is a blade that cuts both lies and doubt. Next, I'll need an unbiased eye, someone who walks the block, sees the patterns, and owes nobody loyalty. Robert caught me at the mailbox just after lunch, sun bright enough to make the asphalt shimmer. He leaned on his cane the way he used to lean on a ship rail, posture still Navy straight. "You okay, Richard?" he asked. "Lights have been on at odd hours. Saw Paula moving from your room to the guest suite 3 times this week. Thought maybe sleepwalking." His tone was gentle, not gossip concern dressed as observation. He helped carry Emily's hospice bed once, steady as a rock through the worst winter of my life. His word carries weight. I nodded, pretending the mailbox required focus. "Appreciate you looking out," I said. "We've had late nights." He frowned but let it drop. His quiet concern felt like both a gift and a warning. The house's secrets had crossed property lines. Inside, the air smelled of butter and ring lights. Paula was recording a hosting hacks video at my stove, pans rearranged for aesthetic chaos. "People love authenticity," she said, holding her phone at arm's length. My labeled drawers, small, medium, large pans in perfect order, had become her prop. I could feel the imbalance everywhere, a kind of domestic vertigo. She grinned at me. "You don't mind, right? It's good content." At the island, Brian was on a video call, voice pitched for performance. "Nah, man, the in-laws' place is basically a free Airbnb," he said, laughing loud enough for the microphone. "Paula runs the night shift." Laughter followed on the other end. I froze, dish towel in hand, then rinsed a glass under cold water. Free Airbnb. The words landed like a trespass warrant. Paula shot me a look, half apology, half challenge. "Oh, he's joking," she said lightly. "You know, Brian." I dried the glass, set it down with care, as if re-establishing the boundary he'd erased with a punchline. It's one thing to steal quiet from a man. It's another to steal his house while he stands in it and call the theft hospitality. I stepped into my office, texted Nora, "Need you on standby for cease and desist if guests show without permission." She replied within minutes. "Understood. Document everything." I already was. By evening, Paula had transformed the kitchen again. Lights dimmed to golden hour. Brian tapped at his laptop, pretending productivity while nursing a beer. I sat in my chair, pretending patience while watching the feed on mute. Midnight slid by without sound, but my pulse had its own metronome. At 1:58 a.m., both cameras pinged. Hall first, then kitchen. The footage rolled in gray light. Paula, robe-tied, moving down the hall. The fridge opened. Something small foil, again slipped into her hand. The hallway feed followed. Paula near the guest door, whispering. The door shut soft. 5 minutes later, the front door opened. A man entered quietly, cap low, guided by her voice. "Keep it down." I watched the time stamp blink on the feed like a pulse. 2:03 a.m. Unauthorized entry, facilitated by someone who sleeps in my bed. My hands were steady. My heart was not. I saved the clips to the cloud, tagged the files, backed them up twice. Then I sat in the dark until sunrise, the hum of the refrigerator louder than conversation. When strangers start treating your sanctuary like a lobby, you either become the bellhop or you become the owner again. The doorbell rang at 1:58 a.m. I let it echo twice before Paula slipped from bed, finger pressed to her lips. "Go back to sleep," she whispered. I didn't. Through the hall cam feed on my phone, I watched her open the door to Brian's friend, a tall man with the kind of swagger that smells like trouble and cheap aftershave. "Keep it down," she said softly, closing the door behind him. The next hour unfolded like a rehearsal for a play I never auditioned for. They gathered around my kitchen island, voices low but laughter too bright for the hour. The camera caught Paula handing the friend a folded throw blanket, Brian cracking open a beer by my leather reading chair. Rich doesn't mind, Brian said, grinning into the foam. He's chill. Paula keeps him mellow. The laughter that followed wasn't loud, it was worse. It was intimate, practiced. I sat in the study, door half closed, hearing every word. The smell of hops drifted in, mixing with lemon polish and salt air. I didn't storm in. I didn't slam doors. I watched. My patience has always been a tool. Tonight, it became a ledger. The copper pans that usually hung in descending order were rearranged for aesthetic chaos again. A beer ring bloomed on the marble counter, dark, wet, circular as disrespect. I photographed it before wiping it away. Proof over pride. The hall cam ticked through its gray frames. 2:11 a.m. Paula's robe moving toward the guest room. 2:17, the same robe returning. 5 minutes of shadow between two doors. The guest room light faded under the seam, then blinked out. The friend snored, loud enough to register as motion on the hallway mic. Brian, still awake, joked about legal melatonin, and Paula shushed him with a hand on his forearm that lingered too long. I felt something in my chest twist a coil, winding tighter but never snapping. Emily's voice came back to me then, from the week she died. She'd squeezed my hand, weak but certain. Don't turn our home into a battleground when I'm gone, she said. I promised. Tonight, I kept the letter of that promise while preparing to honor its spirit. Every breath I took, I counted to 10. Every 10 was a brick. Tonight, I was laying a wall they wouldn't see until they hit it. At dawn, Brian's friend stumbled out with a half salute and a toast to best in-laws ever. Paula yawned theatrically, murmuring, "Whoops, up too late." Brian did a smug clap, the sound thin and hollow in the morning light. I stood at the sink, washing the one glass they'd left, the water running hot enough to fog the window. The ocean breeze fought the lingering beer smell, but the air still felt contaminated. At 9:15 a.m., I printed stills from both cameras. Paula's robe, the guest door, the stranger's entrance. Beside them, I laid a copy of the state's criminal trespass statute and a draft letter titled, "Notice to Cease Unauthorized Use of Premises." I slid the papers into a folder labeled House Violations and locked it in the cabinet beside Emily's grocery list. The next step isn't fury, it's clarity, delivered by a uniform that doesn't blink. The master bedroom was never content. It was sanctuary. Emily's photo watched over the room from the dresser beside my leather chair, her soft smile guarding the quiet. I kept the quilts folded exactly the way she liked, edges squared, corners tucked. That morning, Paula breezed in without knocking, her robe belted loose, phone held high like a torch. "Making the bed pretty for content," she sang. The phone's red light blinked, the lens sweeping across my bedroom. "When your man can't sleep, you mother him just a little," she cooed to her followers, panning across the folded quilts, the gleam of brass, the photo of Emily she pretended not to notice. Hearts floated up her screen. "Isn't it cozy?" she asked, and the word hit like mockery. She turned once more, framing Emily's picture in soft focus before ending the stream. "Perfect," she said, and smiled at herself in the black mirror of her phone. When she left, the scent of her perfume stayed a sweet, artificial peace layered over something sacred. I sat on the bed and stared at Emily's photo until my hands stopped shaking. Desecration, not hosting. That's what it was. Control through performance. The world watching a lie staged in the one place I'd promised to keep untouched. By afternoon, I gathered the proof the pill photo, the Zolpidem receipt fragment, the guest footage, and sent it to Nora. My email subject line read simply, "Update." She replied minutes later, "You're ready. If there's a substance issue, let law handle it. Don't guess." Her words were clean, surgical, no emotion, just direction. I printed the email for the file. Evidence has weight when it's on paper. The house felt heavier that evening. Even the ocean breeze pressing against the windows carried no relief. Paula moved through rooms humming softly, the same tune she used when she wanted to sound harmless. At 2:10 a.m., the kitchen cam flickered to life. The refrigerator light spilled across the tile, her robe bright against the dark. 2:11, the hall cam pinged. She walked steady, small paper cup in one hand, water bottle in the other. 2:12, the guest room latch eased shut. I went to the cabinet, opened the drawer marked Home Security, and touched the laminate over Emily's first shopping list. Milk, apples, bread, candles. Simple, ordinary things. The handwriting made the years fold in on themselves. I turned back to her photo on the dresser. Her eyes were kind even now, unblinking. "You asked me for peace," I whispered. "Peace sometimes needs a lock." I placed my fingers on the frame and turned it face down. The sound it made on the wood was small, yet it was the loudest sound of my life. At 2:14 a.m., I dialed 911, voice steady, calm as a report. "Homeowner reporting suspected drugging and unauthorized overnight guest," I said. "Documented. Requesting welfare check." The dispatcher confirmed. Professional and quiet. I ended the call and sat by the window. Minutes later, blue light washed across the marble floor, soft and soundless. For the first time in a week, I exhaled without counting. The door opened, and with it came a different kind of witness. The knock was polite, professional, 2 short taps, 1 pause, 1 long. When I opened the door, the blue lights outside turned my foyer marble into a cold ocean. 2 officers stood there, hands low, eyes already scanning the perimeter. You can always tell when someone's seen every version of a mess. "Evening, sir," the older one said. "You called?" "I did," I said, stepping aside. "I'm the homeowner, Richard Hale. It's my name on the deed." I handed him my driver's license and the folder I'd prepared. Inside, printed stills from the cameras, timestamps labeled in neat block letters, Nora's email outlining New Jersey's one-party consent law, and a draft letter titled "Notice to Cease Unauthorized Use of Premises." The officer flipped through it, expression unreadable but attentive. "You've documented everything," he said quietly. Behind me, Paula appeared, robes cinched tight, hair immaculate as if she'd expected company. "Officers," she said sweetly, "this is a misunderstanding. My husband worries. I was helping him sleep night care, you know." She lifted the little paper cup like a chalice. "Melatonin." The younger officer's eyes flicked to it. "Medication prescribed, ma'am?" "It's just supplements," she said too fast. I didn't look at her. "I'm not here to accuse anyone," I said, voice even. "I'm here to establish boundaries. Effective immediately, I revoke permission for any overnight guests other than my daughter, Lily. I'd like that on record." Brian stepped out from the guest hallway. Hair messy, smirk practiced. "He invited me, officers. We're family. Rich forgets things sometimes." He tapped his temple with mock concern. The word "forgets" hung in the air like a taunt. The older officer turned to me. "Mr. Hale, you're rescinding consent for your son-in-law to stay on the premises?" "Yes," I said, "and I'd like that noted. I want everyone who isn't family by blood or marriage to vacate tonight." Brian spread his arms. "I am family, technically." The officer's gaze stayed flat. "Not if consent is revoked by the property owner. You can collect your belongings." Paula's voice tightened. "This is humiliating. We were just helping." "Ma'am," the officer said evenly, "we're here because he called. If you need someone else's eyes to remind you that your house is still yours, invite a uniform. Proof doesn't humiliate. It clarifies." The officers began a quiet walkthrough. I followed, keeping a respectful distance. The younger one paused at the guest room doorway, flashlight cutting through the dark. "Anyone impaired in here tonight?" "I don't know," I said truthfully. He stepped inside, light sliding over the nightstand. A glass sat there, half empty. Around its rim, faint, almost invisible, a smear of black ink from the marker I'd used to dot the pill days earlier. The beam lingered, then clicked off. "I'll need a quick photo of this," he said. The camera flash flared once, sealing the moment into record. Paula stood rigid in the hallway. Brian crossed his arms, jaw tightening. "You done embarrassing yourself?" he muttered. The older officer looked up, pen hovering over his pad. "Excuse me?" Brian smirked. "Guy's senile, doesn't even—" The officer's head tilted just slightly, like a string had snapped somewhere I couldn't reach. The pen touched paper. "Noted," he said. Pressure left my chest and settled onto their clipboard instead. "I guess 99% of you will hear this, sigh, and scroll past, not clicking like or subscribe, even if it only takes a second. What time is it for you, and where are you listening?" Paula played her part with professional precision. Hand to her throat, eyes glistening just enough for the body cam to catch. He fixates, officer, she said softly. Since Emily died, he hears things. I go check so he can rest. Her tone wrapped itself in grief, the kind that invites sympathy while quietly rearranging blame. Brian stood behind her, arms crossed, nodding at each word like a metronome. The officer's pen didn't move. The silence stretched just long enough for the air to thicken. I held my ground at the edge of the hallway, folder in hand. Officers, I said evenly, these are the posted camera notices at both the entryway and the kitchen. Here are screenshots showing I texted everyone in the house about them on these dates. I slid the pages forward, printed stills with timestamps. 2:10 kitchen, 2:11 hall, 12 guest latch 4 nights straight. The senior officer glanced over each, his face impassive but engaged. I added, I consulted counsel before installation. All cameras are in common areas, video only. I've revoked consent for any overnight guests not on the deed. I'd like that respected. Brian jumped in, voice oozing confidence. The friend just crashed here, he said. Rich said it was fine weeks ago. I looked straight at him. You asked about dropping by after a game. I said no. We didn't have permission tonight. My tone was calm, but the recorders caught every syllable. The younger officer raised a hand. Let's separate, folks. He led Paula a few steps away, speaking low. I couldn't hear her words, but I recognized the rhythm of manipulation, the soft confessional hum of someone trying to sound noble. I'm trying to help everyone, she said just loud enough for the mic to catch. The senior officer turned to Brian. Any medication involved tonight? Brian shrugged, smirked. Melatonin? The officer's gaze moved to me. I opened the folder again, slid a small plastic sleeve forward. Found this in the guest trash can, I said. Cash receipt. Zolpidem 10 milligrams, name line torn off. The officer studied it for a beat, then nodded once, sliding it into an evidence envelope. They checked my ID, confirmed I was the sole owner on the deed. Your daughter Lily is the only person authorized to stay overnight? That's correct, I said. They turned to Brian's friend, who'd hovered awkwardly in the hall. Sir, you'll need to gather your things. The man nodded quickly, mumbling an apology. His sneakers squeaked on the tile as he left. Paula wasn't done. Could you please note his recent confusion? She asked, her voice quivering. He's been forgetful. The officer's reply was calm and precise. We note what we observe, ma'am. Brian, sensing the cameras watching, attempted a hug goodbye. I stepped back and offered my hand instead. The officer's brief nod said everything. The handshake landed like punctuation. The report read clean. Dispute over guests. Homeowner revokes consent. Parties advised. As Brian reached the door, his mask slipped. He muttered, just low enough to think he was safe. We'll fix this online. The officer's body cam caught it. The older one looked up from his pad, eyebrow raised. That a threat, sir? Brian forced a grin. Just a joke. Noted, the officer said. Theater loves a crowd. Law prefers paper. I knew exactly which stage I'd play on. The morning after the officers left, the house sat still too still, the kind of quiet that feels staged. Paula brewed coffee she didn't drink, her robe tied too neatly, her eyes searching for the right script. I didn't offer one. I opened my laptop, signed into the encrypted drive Nora had set up, and clicked send. The email subject line read, Supplemental call night visits. Attached was the recording from weeks ago, the one Brian thought was just another friendly check-in. The same syrupy tone he used to sell sincerity. Could you do that for Paula? He'd said. She gets restless at night. Then the line that sealed intent. You were Emily's rock, Dad. He'd dropped her name like a key, certain it would open me. That was the moment I started documenting everything. New Jersey is a one-party consent state. Nora had made sure I verified that in writing before I ever hit record. The audio was clean, too clean. No hesitation, no pressure. Just strategy. I attached the group text showing the posted camera notices, the pill photo beside that day's newspaper, and the foil scrap with my marked dot embedded in adhesive. No dramatics, no accusations. I wrote, This pattern concerns me. Thank you for your documentation. Within 15 minutes, the patrol supervisor replied, Received. Will append to existing report. Appreciate the thoroughness. I BCC'd Nora and printed the send confirmation for my filing cabinet. Every click was a brick in the wall I'd promised myself to build. At breakfast, Paula poured coffee into my cup with that hostess smile, sweet and brittle. "Can we move forward?" she asked, voice tremoring just enough for sympathy. "We will," I said. "With help." I kept my tone even. "I've scheduled a primary care appointment for both of us to review all medications." For a second, her eyes softened. Then calculation replaced it, quick as a light flick. She nodded. "Of course." But her fingers tightened around the mug's handle until her knuckles blanched. I stood, walked to the fridge, and taped a note. "No guests without written permission." Another note went on my desk. "Dr. Wed, 2 p.m." I placed the pen exactly parallel to the paper's edge. The small rituals mattered. They steadied the pulse of the house. By noon, my phone buzzed. "Brian, overreaction, Dad. You made cops our business." I typed slowly, deliberately. "Boundaries protect everyone." No response. That evening, I stepped onto the porch. The air off the Atlantic was sharp and salt clean. Inside, the refrigerator hummed, the cameras blinked, and the house exhaled quiet, like an engine idling after a long climb. Proof lived here now, not paranoia. At 9:03 p.m., Nora called. "Got your email." "Good move," she said. "Next, send a preservation letter, no deletion of live streams or posts. If they smear you, we move." "Smear?" I asked. "You know the pattern," she said. "When facts corner people like this, they go online first." I stared at the blue glow of my laptop screen, reflected in the glass. "Then that's where the next battle begins," I said quietly. "The truth doesn't need volume, it needs a timestamp." I thought law would end it. Instead, the next war opened on a blue screen with 1,000 anonymous judges. At 5:32 a.m., my niece's text woke me. "Uncle Rich, is this true?" Attached was a screenshot Paula's Facebook post, set to "Friends of Friends." The photo was of my filing cabinet, cropped to make the papers inside look like a hoarder's pile instead of a system. The caption read, "Watching a loved one spiral is so hard. Pray for us." Underneath, 100 hearts bloomed like pity confetti. Comments rolled in. "Stay strong. So proud of you both. Dementia is cruel." By 6, another ping Brian's Instagram. A selfie at my stove, Paula leaning in, both smiling the soft smile of people who rehearse compassion. Caption, "Caring for family, even when it's not easy." Hashtags, number love in action, number family first. Someone commented, "He called the cops on you?" A crying emoji followed. My phone buzzed like a trapped fly. "Is everything okay? Do you need help? What's going on?" A former station mate, someone who'd run into burning buildings with me, wrote, "Cap, you good?" I answered 2 of them and stopped. You can't win in a room that sells sympathy by the like. The house, once my refuge, now hummed with the static of public judgment. Every ping, every vibration carried the sound of strangers choosing sides in a play they didn't see. I walked into the living room, where the light slanted pale and clean across Emily's photo. She smiled the same quiet smile she always had, the one that believed decency was its own defense. I turned the frame face down again, not out of anger this time, but mercy. I couldn't stand the idea of her seeing me like this. I sat in my leather chair and breathed through the knot in my throat until it hardened into something still and cold. The kind of pain that doesn't shout, it just settles. Then I did what I've always done when chaos hits. I made order, brewed coffee, mopped the kitchen floor even though it was spotless, polished the counter until the marble looked untouched, like none of this ever happened. Screenshots kept coming. My sister called, hesitant. "Richard?" "Give me 2 days," I said, and hung up before her worry could turn into pity. By mid-morning, Brian reposted Paula's caption on Reddit's r divided by aging parents, complete with their tidy narrative. "He's hallucinating. We're saints." I forwarded it to Nora. She replied fast, efficient. "Document everything. Don't engage. We'll answer once professionally." I pulled out a fresh sheet of paper, wrote in steady block letters, "Silence is not surrender. It is staging." I filed it under faith. Outside, the gulls screamed above the shoreline. Inside, my phone lay silent now, drained of power or mercy. The air smelled of coffee and salt, and something scorched like metal cooling after a fire. Then a knock. Not the timid kind. Measured. Familiar. I opened the door to find Robert, my neighbor, hat in hand, his face drawn but firm. "Got a minute?" he asked. He didn't wait for an answer. He stepped inside, set his cap on the table, and said quietly, "You're not crazy, Rich, and I think I can prove it." Robert didn't ask what I needed. He told me what he'd brought. Robert sat down at my kitchen table like he was clocking in for a shift. Same calm, same steady hands. He set a travel mug beside him, the smell of burnt diner coffee rising like steam off an old engine. Then he slid a small USB drive across the marble toward me. "OA Patrol uses a body cam," he said. "Public spaces only sidewalk, curb, driveways. I've got time-stamped in and outs after midnight the last 2 weeks." He paused, watching me absorb that. "Also, the live stream. My daughter saw it. Screen, recorded it. Sent it to me because she knows what Emily's room meant." For a second, I couldn't speak. He opened his laptop and played the clip. Paula's voice filled my kitchen, soft and syrupy. "When your man can't sleep, you mother him just a little." The camera panned across Emily's picture. That same gentle smile turned into set dressing for someone else's lie. The paper cup, the wave of heart emojis, it was all there, preserved by a stranger's scroll. Robert leaned back, arms folded, eyes narrowed. "If they wanted privacy," he said, dry as sea wind, "they shouldn't have broadcast from your bedroom, Rich." "Oh." Then came the patrol clips, his body cam catching open street angles of Brian's friend arriving after midnight, Paula whispering, "Keep it down." And later, the police cruiser pulling up, blue lights washing over the curb. Context clear, lawful, irrefutable. He looked at me the way he used to back at the station, when the alarm bell rang and decisions had to be made. "I can testify," he said simply. "Saw plenty from the sidewalk. Audio only when they raised their voices. My daughter's got the originals backed up." I exhaled, slow. God doesn't send help in wings. He sends it in work boots and flannel. I wasn't about to waste this. We cataloged everything together, 2 old men hunched over laptops like detectives who'd never retired. Each clip labeled, each timestamp aligned with my own footage. Nora pinged back a thumbs-up emoji, rare for her. Solid chain. "Proceed," she typed. She drafted a short witness statement for Robert. Dates, locations, what he observed, how his daughter had preserved the stream. He read it twice, signed with his careful block letters, and slid it back. We made 2 copies of the drive. One for the cabinet beside Emily's grocery list, one for Nora by courier. Robert capped his mug, stood, and rested a hand on my shoulder before leaving. "You didn't imagine it, Rich," he said quietly. "I was there." When the door shut, the house didn't feel empty. It felt aligned again, like the world had tilted back toward sense. My phone buzzed. Nora on speaker, her voice all steel and clarity. "We move now," she said. "Restraining order, defamation claim, and a cease and desist with a spoliation warning. You ready?" I looked at the stack of labeled files, at the neat cabinet filled with proof, at Emily's photo standing upright once more. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." Kindness without boundaries is chaos. Law gives it edges. I picked up the pen. Nora's office didn't sound like law, it sounded like precision. The quiet hum of printers, the soft click of keys, the whir of an old fax still doing its duty. She moved through it like a conductor, hair pinned, sleeves rolled, voice trimmed to commands that didn't waste a syllable. "Verified complaint for defamation per se," she said, eyes on the monitor. "They alleged you're mentally incompetent. That's actionable." She scrolled, highlighted, added, "Will also claim intrusion and intentional infliction of emotional distress." And the TRO temporary restraining order prohibiting entry without written consent. I nodded, watching the language of justice take shape in real time. Lines, citations, signatures, facts stacked like sandbags. We sent spoliation letters to Paula and Brian, formal, clean, sharp-edged. Preserve all posts, direct messages, live streams, and associated metadata. Any deletion may result in sanctions. That phrase, "may result in sanctions," carried more weight than any threat I could voice. Nora's paralegal slid a printout to me for signature. I signed and dated. She scanned, uploaded, filed. The e-file confirmation popped up at 2:43 p.m., Superior Court of New Jersey. Case number assigned. I printed the timestamp, slipped it into a new folder, and placed it in the cabinet beside Emily's grocery list. Proof beside promise. At home, the process server did his work. Paula and Brian answered the knock at their condo front desk. Security confirmed they signed. The law doesn't always move fast, but it moves straight when you line it right. That night, I made one public post. No adjectives, no fury, just a photo of my posted camera notice, the group text notifying everyone about it, and 3 timeline stills with faces blurred except mine. I added one HOA clip of a midnight arrival. Caption: For those concerned, I'm okay. I asked guests to leave. I've retained counsel. Please direct questions to my attorney. Then a link to Nora's letter. The post went live at 7:12 p.m. The first hour was polite confusion. The second hour, recognition. Someone commented, "Wait, isn't that Paula's video from his bedroom?" Another asked, "So the Pray For Us post was fake?" The thread began to turn not into anger but into clarity. At 9:03 p.m., my phone lit up. Brian's text. "Take that down or we'll ruin you." I forwarded it to Nora. She replied one line, "Thank you for the exhibit." I turned off the phone, picked up fine sandpaper. There was a small nick on the arm of my leather chair that had bothered me for a week. I smoothed it until the surface felt even again. Sometimes repair is quieter than revenge. The next morning, Nora called. "Hearing's Friday," she said. "Bring Robert. The judge will want corroboration." At 10:16 a.m., I refreshed the browser. Paula's "Pray For Us" post was gone. Nora's message followed seconds later. Spoliation. Judges dislike erasers. I smiled for the first time in days. Not wide, not triumphant, just the kind that fits truth returning to its chair. Courts don't serve catharsis on demand, but they do schedule hearings. Ours was in 48 hours. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No echo, no grandeur, just varnish and fluorescent light. The judge was brisk, the clerk kind. Nora was a scalpel. She didn't perform, she dissected. "Your Honor," she began, sliding the exhibit binder forward, "this is not speculation, it's sequence. First, the posted camera notices. Then the group text acknowledging them. Next, the police report supplement, containing the one-party recording and the timestamps. She placed them in order like gears in a clock. Then came the HOA clips from Robert's patrol body cam, the sidewalk view of Paula ushering Brian's friend inside after midnight, the patrol car arriving, the live stream frame with the caption, "When your man can't sleep, you mother him just a little." Robert testified next. Calm, deliberate. Dates, times, curb vantage, cops on scene. "Public view only," he said. "Audio when they raise their voices." The judge nodded. Facts were oxygen again. Paula went first on the stand. "It was melatonin," she said, soft and tremulous. Nora waited for silence, then produced the torn cash receipt, zolpidem 10 milligrams, and the photo of the foil with my ink dot. "I don't know what that is," Paula said too quickly. Then Brian. He tried charm, but charm dies under oath. Nora lifted the printout. "Did you or did you not post that, mister? Hale hallucinates and should be supervised like a child." He swallowed. "I reposted, Paula." Nora turned to the judge. "Publication and republication, Your Honor. Defamation per se." The judge's eyebrow lifted exactly 1 millimeter. "Enough." Nora played the police body cam excerpt. Brian's voice, clear as daylight. "We'll fix this online." The room stilled. The gavel didn't slam. It just lowered the temperature. The order came clean and firm. Temporary restraining order granted for 90 days. No entry or contact without Mr. Hale's written consent. Both parties to undergo medication review with primary physicians. Then came the warning about deleted posts. "Spoliation is destruction of evidence," the judge said. "I advise counsel to remind their clients of the consequences." Outside, the hallway air felt lighter. Nora's phone buzzed. A new email settlement proposal from their attorney. She read it aloud. $9,800 property damage and cleaning, $3,500 legal fees, and a public apology posted for 30 days, pinned, retracting false statements. No further contact. I nodded. "Add one line," I said. The apology must name the lie claims of senility were false. Brian signed. Paula hesitated until the judge looked up from the bench. Or, we proceed, he said mildly. She signed. At 6:02 p.m., the apology went live, pinned at the top of both their profiles. We lied. We're sorry. We accept the court's order. Comments poured beneath my own quiet post. I'm sorry, I judged. I saw that bedroom video too. This changes everything. The local Facebook moderator pinned our thread, added one final line. Discussion closed. Facts verified. Justice doesn't sing. It clicks like a well-made latch finally catching. That night the house was quiet, not empty. Quiet like respect. I guess 99% of you will hear this, sigh, and scroll past, not clicking like or subscribe. Even if it only takes a second, what time is it for you? And where are you listening? Months have passed, and the house finally sounds like itself again, floorboards sighing in rhythm with the tide outside, the refrigerator humming low and steady, nothing sneaking through the hours that belong to sleep. The silence feels earned. Under the thermostat in the front hall, a new frame hangs plain wood, glass clean. Inside, in my neat print, the house rules read, no overnight guests without written permission. No filming in private rooms. Medication is medical. It isn't a warning. It's a reminder that peace isn't passive. It's practiced. Paula lives back at the condo now. Her last letter arrived a month ago, short and sober. No apologies dressed as excuses. Just a line that read, I'm learning to carry my own water. She's in therapy. The word came from her, not me. Brian stays quiet, the kind of distance that isn't cold, just instructed. The law taught him tone. My leather chair wears a new arm cap, walnut grain, sanded smooth. The marble catches the ocean light in long, easy streaks. Mornings, I walk with Robert along the seawall. We don't talk much. Sometimes he nods toward the sky and says, gulls mean rain. I nod back. Some friendships don't need more than that. The filing cabinet, once the heart of my suspicion, has become something gentler, a ledger of proof and peace, side by side. Behind the will and deed, I keep the consent judgment, the public apology screenshot, and one sheet of paper laminated long ago. Emily's grocery list from the spring of '84. Milk, eggs, and daisies if they have them. The ink has faded, but the curve of her handwriting still carries warmth. I touch it like a prayer each night before bed. My medical chart at the clinic reads, sleep, good, no more 2:11 a.m. alerts, no more half-sipped nightcaps or whispered justifications. Everything that needs watching is watched by the right people now, doctors, not midnight influencers. The apology post stayed up for its full 30 days. On day 31, I printed a screenshot, signed and dated it, and filed it behind the letter H for healing. The comments ended with more grace than I expected. We're sorry for judging. Glad you're well. Even the local Facebook moderator sent a note. Coffee soon? We've got your back. The internet, for once, remembered how to be human. Tonight is Sunday dinner. Lily stands in the kitchen laughing with her kids. The house smells of rosemary, roast chicken, and nothing you need to hide. She reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. Dad, she says, voice warm, you taught me kindness. Thanks for teaching me its edges. I lift Emily's photo from the cabinet and turn it face up. The glass catches the late sun, and a small square of gold light lands on the folder marked Home Security. For a long minute, I just stand there, watching that light hold. I built this sanctuary with my hands, and now I've learned how to protect it with my mind. It is, at long last, peaceful. Justice was served. My kindness didn't disappear. It simply learned to be wise.